Welcome back to Windy Hollow Garage. Today, we're working on our 66 Belvedere Betty White.
Welcome back to Windy Hollow Garage. I got my little shop helper out here today because we're finally going to work on our 1966 Belvedere, lovingly named Betty White. Why is she called Betty White? Because she's a sassy old girl. Betty has been neglected a little bit this year, so she is due for her off-season maintenance. She needs some fresh oil. We always throw, since she has a hydraulic roller cam in it, we're going to throw 10W30 brad Penn in it. We always run Lucas oil stabilizer in all of our race engines. We do that because I've run that for about 20 years, and I've lost lifters and things like that, and Lucas oil has saved many motors. We're also going to upgrade to some colder spark plugs. You can see she's stealing my Roadster plugs. These were dubbed for my Roadster, but we're going to use them in Betty. We are also going to install a block heater. And you're probably going to say, why would you install a block heater in a race car? Well, there's a very good reason for that. We live in Ohio, and it is sometimes 45 degrees when we wake up to race in the morning. And normally, Nostalgia Superstock is one of the first ones. So with the block heater, when everybody else has to drive their cars around, wasting all their fuel, we just go out and plug it in and wait. We get in the car, it's 100 degrees. We're also going to go ahead and throw in some adjustable QA1 shocks. These will be helpful to, you can use those to dial in your reaction time and things like that during the season. Plus maybe it'll give us a little bit, this car doesn't have any trouble hooking, but those are a little bit better shocks than what are on it right now. So stay with us. Fingers crossed. This engine has a lot of runs on it. So we're hoping when we pull the oil footer off that everything looks okay. So stay with us and we'll see what's going on. We got our valve covers back. You can see that we got bungs welded in. Look at that. You know the welder is talented when he doesn't even mess up the powder coating on the valve covers. Look at that, it's like art. So the reason for this was, before we had these taped into the valve covers, they didn't really seal very tight. So now you can see that these will be -10 AN fittings, which it's like race car stuff now. So looks a lot better. Should seal up a lot better. These go to the headers for the evap. What's it called? Evacuation system. That's what it's called. The evacuation system. Sorry, my brain was loading for a second.
Want to tell us a little bit about what Betty's power plant is?
So Betty White is powered by a 400 Mopar that has a 440 crank, which makes 451 cubic inches. Betty White also has these heads, which are way overkill for what we're doing with this car right now, but these are 440-1 Indy heads on this car. These were like the top of the line heads back in probably the 90s. These were the best heads you could get for a big block Mopar back in the day. It also has the big giant Indy 441 single plane intake, and I think it does have flat top pistons. I don't think it has a whole lot of compression. We did inherit this. We did not build this one. It's got the tried and true MSD ignition. It's got your hooker headers. It's got your Mizzier electric water pump. This is my, I kind of cobbled together this carburetor. I ordered it as a quick fuel E85 carburetor back in the day when, I think in the early 2000s when E85 was just becoming popular as a race fuel. Yeah, that carburetor's won a lot of races. So it's a bad unit. I'm thinking about putting it back on my car. I put my Roadster on alcohol, and it's not nearly as good as this car was. The transmission in this car is just your typical 727. Around here, it's built by the local professor here in Central Ohio. The weak point of this car right now is probably the 8 3/4 rear end. It's got an 8 3/4 rear end with a spool from Dr. Diff that I installed just like the one in the Dart. But this thing still has factory stock Mopar B-body axles. And it's gone as fast as 1079, 1078.
Yep.
So we do have some new ones that are probably going to go into this winter. This car does have a really soft gear in it, though. It only has like a 391 gear, which makes it hook really good. What else?
We put new rear QA1 shocks on it during the racing season last year already.
Yeah.
That resulted in me getting a little mini.
It did help get little papa wheelies. This car also has cow tracks, which are probably the greatest invention for race cars ever made. I don't even know why you would ever even cut up a race car anymore unless you're building a pro mod, because you bolt a set of cow tracks on a race car, it immediately does wheelies. Come back here, it's got I think it's a 15-gallon fuel cell.
It is.
So you fill this sucker up and you're pretty much good for the weekend. The only thing you have to adjust is maybe for weight. It's got a MagnaFuel 300 on it, which is plenty enough for our E85. And it has a giant 2100 cranking amp battery in it, which has proven to be pretty solid. And because this is a Nostalgia Superstock car, it has a weight box, which may have as much as 100 pounds in it at any given weekend. So this car has Mickey Thompson 28x9 Pro bracket radials. These are like unobtainium, I believe, right now. I think there's about a 6-month waiting period. But these tires require almost no burnout, and they hook pretty much no matter what. Then you got your cow tracks down there, which are just, like I said, this car even has the mono leaf, and the cow tracks are just probably about the best invention made for race cars. You don't have to tub your car and put ladder bars and all that stuff on them anymore. You just bolt a set of cow tracks on it for $1,000 and you're ready to go race. All right, you see where it's lined up now?
It is not 9/16. It's up. It's the 5/8, I think. Oh no, it's even bigger. Nope. Nope. Hey, we have success.
So before we change oil in this car, I want to make sure that we get the oil back to the exact same place. So I just want to take a picture of it because since I didn't build this engine, I'm not exactly sure how much it takes. So there we go. Now we know how much oil to put in it. Don't drop it.
Won't drop it.
Don't get it on your shirt.
I won't get it on my shirt. Nothing on the end of the plug.
That's good. I change oil once a season, whether it needs it or not. I don't really count the runs. I just change it once a year. You want to write 3/4 on this so that we remember for next time?
Smart ass.
So we have labeled the drain plug. So next time we'll know it's a 3/4 and we won't have to try 5 different sockets.
Rude.
So you actually want to be on the end where it's like
Grooved.
groove, because that's where otherwise you're just going to smash the filter. Now you can do it with your little paw. There we go. Got the rag in there, so when she, yep, it is dripping all everywhere. So you look so enthusiastic.
Woo!
You're gonna race your car. You're gonna work on your.
I never complained. I don't have to look enthusiastic all the time. I'm out here doing it, aren't I?
So I got the oil filter is all filled with fresh oil. Make sure you lube up your ring so it doesn't stick. That should be interesting. What do you think, Chop Dog?
Come on, you want to help? You got any? You don't have thumbs. That won't work.
Oh, she's getting serious. She's got her hair up now. Oh man, look at that. She barely spilled a drop. You want to draw an arrow on it so we know when to take it off to go that way? I mean, I do that on most of them. I can never remember. Lefty, tighty, righty. I don't know. Whatever it is. I always write it. So when we go to take it off, we know which way to go. I also do that on the motorhome. Since it was like, I don't know, 30 degrees when I came out, the oil is still draining. So we're going to let this drain overnight. All right. It's the next morning. We're back in the shop. Betty White's had a solid 12 hours to let all of her old oil drain out of her. And we labeled our drain plug. So next time somebody doesn't have to have me try fetch 5 different sockets. Start it with your fingers.
I did. It's already all the way in. I'm now tightening it. She tight.
All right. Okay. So
you want to cut the oil filter open?
Not under here.
Well, duh.
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 Duh. So I don't know how familiar many of you are with Nostalgia Superstock. We really weren't that familiar with it until just maybe a little over a year ago. But it's a pretty popular class around here, and it runs a lot of the Mopar specialty races, like the Mopar Nationals. I think they're having a Mopar race at Norwalk this year. There's a Mopar race at Dragway 42 this year. There's a Mopar race in London, Kentucky, a Mopar race at Clay City. All those races will have multiple days of Nostalgia Superstock racing. For your Mopars to be eligible for Nostalgia Superstock, they do need to be, I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up, because the guys will never let me live it down. So it does need to be a 60 to 67 if it has a big block, or a 64 to 67 if it has a Hemi. Now, if you have a Dodge Dart, like our 68 Dodge Dart over there, 67 to 69 can have a big block, but only 68 can have a Hemi. So that's some interesting knowledge for you. If you're interested in running Nostalgia Superstock, it's not just limited to Mopar guys and gals. And I think we have one of the only gals that I know of that run it. Have we seen any other girls at any Mopar race?
There's at least 2 Hemi women drivers that have Hemis.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Nostalgia Superstock is basically an index-based foot brake drag racing class. So for us, we try to run, last year we ran 11 O's most of the year. I think next year we're going to try and run 1075. Now, it doesn't sound like it's that hard. Well, it's never that easy because the weather is always changing. There are so many variables that it is so hard to hit the index. I thought it would be way easier than it is. I was so wrong. All right, so to help her hit her shift points, we've installed pretty much the fanciest shift light that they make. So this is the Autometer Digital Pro shift light, and it actually shows your RPM right there where it shows 0 right now. That'll show the RPM of the car when it's running. And then it lights up like a normal shift light when it's time to shift. It's dead accurate and helps so much. This car, we did have a full roll cage put in this car. It did not have a cage in it before when we got it, and it had gone pretty much as fast as it had gone in the tens. So now it's got a cage. It's a chromoly cage even.
It is.
And we even got the door bars done. So you can see the door bars are done so that it's lady friendly.
Much easier for me to get in and out of than the Roadster is.
Yeah, you can see that the door bars kind of bent down there. And that makes it so much easier for big girls to get in the car, in and out of the car.
Much easier.
The interior in this car is pretty much mint, other than needing wiped down from our last weekend at Pacemakers last year. You can see the back seat is very much like brand new. It's got pretty nice bucket seats up front, and the carpet's pretty nice, and the dash. Does the speedometer work in this car?
No.
And then we've got our gauges, and I rewired the car last year. One cool thing we did with this car was we replaced the cigarette lighter. This is where the cigarette lighter goes. You can see it says cigarette lighter. But a starter button, a push button start button, fits right in there, just perfect. So even the door panels in this car are pretty much mint. This is one of the nicest, it's got to be one of the nicest 66 Belvederes around. When we bought this car, we definitely made Grandma's piggy bank cry a little bit because this car was not inexpensive at all. No.
So I'll go ahead and add the oil.
Are you pouring that without spilling it?
Yeah.
What? Right here.
I know how to pour oil. We've already had this discussion once.
What? Oh my gosh, Freiberger would be so proud. If you spill oil on these valve covers, it is a nightmare, by the way, with the
Partitions and...
Yeah, with the lines, it is a disaster.
He really likes to give me a hard time about spilling things.
Breaking things.
Breaking things. Not being able to loosen things today.
The trash can is like, you're not even within 10 feet.
Oh, I wasn't aiming for the trash can that time. Was I supposed to be aiming for the trash can?
To avoid losing our bottle of Lucas while it drains, this is the concoction I came up with. I had a towel in there, but as soon as we started working, the bottle fell, and we'll leave this for probably hours to get all the goop out of the bottle. I think that's pretty clever.
So first, I need to loosen this lovely little bolt right here at the top so that I can get the shock out.
Your handy little stool. Your stool.
It works.
You're not even that short. Oh, so these are the shocks we're retiring. Calvart 9010s. I mean, they were okay.
So we found a bit of a...
Could have been a travesty here. So the brake line's been rubbing on the tire on this car. So that's going to have to be addressed. This is why you always do your winter maintenance. We have broken the seal. So no turning back now. Eureka! I got it out. It's sealed in there pretty good. So these are pretty cool. They use a little O-ring to seal in, and then they have a little backing plate that expands out as it smashes. So they're not like the rubber emergency plugs that can just pop out willy-nilly. These are, once these are in there, they're in there pretty good. So 600 watts worth of power, and keeps your engine all nice and toasty. Okay, we're back the next morning. We've got our coffee in hand, and we're ready to tackle the spark plugs this morning. So yesterday we were able to get the oil changed. Actually, Mom was able to get the oil changed pretty much by herself. And she was able to gap the spark plugs to 035 all by herself yesterday. So I did help Mom with the block heater, but that's an upgrade, not necessarily maintenance item. So I don't think that counts. This morning, we wanted to go ahead and shout out all of our Navy viewers. We know we have a few of those, active duty, some that are about to retire, and some that have served previously. So of course, we thank all of you for your service. So let's go ahead and get to the live action. All right, so we're gonna pull this off. We'll see how much is still left in the... Oh, we got it all.
We got it all.
So all you gotta do is wait 24 hours and all your Lucas oil will finally drain out.
So I will say, spark plugs and spark plug wires are one thing that I've actually been able to change myself for a long time, thanks to a childhood friend that showed me how to do it and always helped me on my drivers when I was in high school. I had a 89 Ford Probe that I drove in high school.
Didn't everybody have an 89 Ford Probe in high school? Got our shop supervisor this morning. He's hard on the job. Nope. And then we got, hey, what about me? We got our other
Oh my gosh.
shop supervisor. She's hard at work this morning as well. It might be her all day. See, these are 10s. These are a really cold plug, and I think that's probably why they're so black. I don't think they're just burning hot enough. We're putting 9s back in.
You had half of them done and then I did the other half. Now that we think.
I don't think so. So one thing we always do when we change spark plugs is put a little dab of a little dab of dielectric grease on the end of your... Makes it seal up a lot better. When it goes on, you can hear it click. We did get I put up some shop decor this morning. So this is our... So this, I had this artwork done of the lovely Betty White here, and this may become some merch coming up very soon. Hoping to have some hoodies and t-shirts of this coming up very soon. And then we got our first piece of fan mail, which is funny, yesterday. This is the one of the Roadster. So hopefully this will become some merch eventually too. You can see she's never more than 6 feet away from Mom. Never more. Mom. Isabel.
For those non-Mopar and car people, why don't you explain the cylinder numbering? Since that's number 7, but it was the 4th one on this side.
I think Mopars are the same as small block Chevys. So it's 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 2, 4, 6, 8 is how they fire. Mark your firing order everywhere though. Mark it on the caps, mark it on your plug wires. I haven't marked which way the advance goes, so if you're like, since we run Nostalgia Super Stock, you can use the You can use the timing advance to kind of compensate for the index a little bit. We can add a little bit of advance to the car to make it go faster, which at the nostalgia race at 42, we weren't running the index very good. And I'm like, well, we needed a lot. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to grab the distributor and throw some timing in it. So I grabbed it and I gave her a wiggle, and we picked up like 600.
We did. But everybody looked at us like we were crazy.
We were like within 200s of the index from that point. We did go on to get down to 3 cars in another class that day. So, hey guys, what's going on? Do you want to help today? You want to help? Yeah. Here he comes. Dum-de-dum-de-dum.
Hi, sweet girl.
He hasn't really around the last video very much. He was antisocial. Before long, you're gonna be like Alex Taylor, TIG welding and rebuilding transmissions.
You're very optimistic in my talents. I appreciate that.
This side's a little bit easier than the other side, so she's almost done with the first one already. Hard being a supervisor out here. I'll drive it. Them things are like $5 a piece now.
Damn it.
Oh no. Oh. Made it all the way without dropping one.
2 very boring minutes later.
That was pretty good. I think you got all of them done in what, 30 minutes?
Mm-hmm. Very close.
About 30 minutes? I thought it would be way longer than that. So, okay. I changed the transmission fluid just to be safe. But
I'm gonna let him do that. Why do I not like transmission fluid, Sean?
because it always gets dumped on your head. Well, it's pretty good so far. Alright, I have a dirty little secret. Don't tell anybody, but sometimes when the transmission fluid looks this good, I'm just going to reuse it. So, I'm not really sponsored by anybody, and we're not monetized either, so we're going to reuse this. Alright, I went ahead and pulled the wiper motor off of here and got that thing out of there. It probably weighs a few pounds. I'm going to go inside and see how much this thing weighs. We'll get a little block-off plate made for that. One out of aluminum. You can see the wiper motor weighs in at 6.7 pounds. So that's 7 pounds off the nose of the car. So it's something. Well, I was going to make the block-off plate myself. But when I went in the house and checked on the beep boop box, I found a small company that makes them for $18. So I figured I would go ahead and support a small company and go ahead and order one. You can see it's a little stainless steel block-off plate. Cleans up the engine bay quite a bit. Takes 6 pounds off the front end of the car. So hopefully you guys enjoyed meeting Betty White. And I think that she's just about ready for the 2023 racing season. We still need some
Brake lines.
Which was a good find because that would have been pretty catastrophic for those to fail at 125 mile an hour. But I think Mom nailed it. She was able to
Change spark plugs. Change the oil. Got the oil filter off without bending it. And I put the new shocks on.
Yeah, she pretty much nailed it. I helped with changing the transmission fluid and got the block heater in there. So we should go to warm it up a little bit quicker. And we are only hopefully maybe a few weeks or maybe a month or so away from being able to test our local tracks to see how our changes work out. So I did want to clarify a few things about the Nostalgia Superstock class. We run by the NMCA rules around here. That's the National Muscle Car Association. I imagine a lot of folks are familiar with that. They don't just run Nostalgia Superstock. They also run like X275 and the 10.5 and a lot of fast, just basic muscle car classes. But one of the other limiting factors for our class is the tire size. They want to keep the cars looking stock appearing. The largest tire I think you can run is a 10.5 inch. And I think that's one of the main limiting factors. So no 14 by 32 bracket cars allowed. Well, the local series that we run Nostalgia Superstock in is called the NSS Bash. So that runs out at our local track, National Trail Raceway. And I think they're having, what, 6 or 7 races this year.
Yep.
And they'll also be at the Night of Thunder at National Trails. So if you get a chance, feel free to come out and check them out.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Roast him a little bit in the comments for us. And you can also check us out on Instagram at Wendy_Hollow_Garage. Bye.